They say you really know someone when things fall apart. I found out on a cliff. My name's Eliza Monroe, and I used to think my life was solid. Small town nurse in Willowbrook, Ohio. Yes. One of those places where the seasons roll by like a Hallmark movie. I had a sweet 6-year-old son named Noah, a steady job at the county hospital, and a husband, Drew, who worked as a construction site supervisor. On paper, everything looked normal, even kind of nice. Except it wasn't. Not for a while. Every morning I packed Noah's lunch, got him to school, then clocked into my shift. I came home exhausted, but content until I realized I was the only one still trying. "Mom, look what I made today!" Noah would shout, waving around his latest crayon masterpiece. One day, he handed me a drawing, a smiling family with a dog, a cat, and a son with a face. "It's us," he beamed. "And that's Rocky the dog. Can we get one?" I taped it to the fridge, heart swelling. "It's beautiful, baby. Dad's going to love it." But Drew barely glanced at it when he came home that night. He muttered something about being tired and went straight to shower. That had become his new normal. 6 months before, Drew started working longer hours, weekend trips for work, no calls, no texts. When I asked, it was always big project list. You know how it is. I tried not to panic. I gave him space. Spoiler, he didn't deserve it. My parents, George and Carol, lived just 10 minutes away and doted on Noah like he was made of gold. They were retired, comfortable, and surprisingly spry for their 60s. We did family dinners once a month. My younger sister, Lila, always joined. She worked in sales for some fancy furniture brand in Columbus and liked to talk about unit growth and bonus tiers, like she was still in a conference room. "Check out this new kid's chair," she said last dinner, flipping through her latest catalog and pushing a page toward me, selling like crazy. "It's cute," I said. "Noah would love it." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lila glance at Drew. It wasn't just a look, it lingered, like a spark that shouldn't have been there. I told myself I imagined it, but the unease wouldn't leave me. That same night, Noah was curled up on my dad's lap while Grandpa read The Very Hungry Caterpillar for the 10th time. Lila sat across the room, arms folded, giving Noah strange, unreadable looks, almost cold. And for a split second, I caught her watching me too expressionless. I brushed it off. Family dynamics can be weird. I figured she was just in one of her moods. Then came the hike. "Let's all go to Timber Ridge this Saturday," my dad said over the phone. "Haven't done a proper hike in a while. Lila's coming too." Noah overheard and jumped up and down. "We're going to the forest? Will there be raccoons?" "Hopefully not too many," I laughed. Drew surprised me when I asked him. "Let's go," he said with a weird enthusiasm. I blinked. Since when did he like hikes? But the day before the trip, he called. Something came up. Big delay on site. "You guys go ahead." Of course, I should have canceled. I didn't. I thought, at the very least, Noah would have fun. We woke up early that morning to bright skies and fresh fall air. I packed snacks, a first aid kit nurse mode never turns off, and Noah's favorite juice boxes. "Ready, Explorer?" I asked. He came bouncing down the stairs, wearing his bug hunting hat and holding a magnifying glass like it was a treasure map. The doorbell rang. My parents had pulled up in their old Subaru. My dad was driving, my mom in the passenger seat, Lila in the back, in flashy brand name hiking gear like she was headed to a sponsored Instagram shoot. "Morning!" Dad beamed as we climbed in. Something felt off. Everyone was overly chipper. Mom kept repeating how today would be special. Lila barely looked up from her phone. I asked if they were okay. "Yeah," Lila said too fast. "Just checking the time." Right. The drive got weirder. Instead of heading toward the main trail, Dad turned off onto a narrow dirt road I'd never seen before. "Shortcut," he said. "Found it years ago. Real hidden gem. You'll love it." We parked in an empty gravel lot with no other cars in sight. Red flag? You'd think. But I ignored it. "Noah, stay close, okay?" I said, tightening his little backpack straps. He nodded solemnly, like a mini soldier. "Got it." The trail was steep and narrow. I noticed something odd. My parents had barely brought any supplies. Lila had no water bottle, no bag, just her phone. I asked, "You sure we're prepared for this hike?" Mom waved it off. "We're not going far. Just a lookout spot." Noah ran ahead with Grandpa, chattering about mushrooms and pine cones. We We finally reached an open ledge overlooking a deep valley. The view was spectacular: miles of trees, a glimmering lake below, and wind strong enough to tug your hair loose. Noah grinned. "Look, Mom, you can see forever." I didn't smile. I felt the tension, the glances, the way Lila stood just behind me, the way Mom and Dad flanked the edges of the path, like a formation. And then it happened. Dad reached for Noah. "Come closer, buddy, I'll show you the lake." "Noah, stay back," I shouted. Lila grabbed my arm. "Let go of me, what are you doing?" "Just showing him something," she said with a fake smile, her grip tightening. "Stop!" I twisted, trying to pull away. Dad picked Noah up. "No!" I screamed. "Put him down!" Then Mom moved, not toward me, but behind me, and shoved. Everything happened in slow motion. The edge, my feet slipping. Noah crying out. I lunged, grabbed him, twisted my body to shield him. And then we fell. The wind roared past my ears as we plummeted, my arms locked around Noah, my mind frozen in disbelief. Branches slashed at us, rocks cracked against my side. Pain exploded through my body, but I never let go. I couldn't. All I could think was, keep him safe, no matter what, protect Noah. When we finally hit the ground, it was like my soul slammed into concrete. The breath was knocked out of me. My limbs felt detached, as if my body was trying to abandon ship. Still, I held him. My eyes fluttered open. Blood pulsed in my ears. Noah was beneath me, barely moving but breathing. His little voice trembled. "Mom, are we gonna die?" I couldn't cry, not yet. I needed to be strong, even if I was shattered inside. "No, baby, we're not. I've got you." My voice was raw, barely more than a whisper. My right leg throbbed with a pain that felt deep and final. My left arm refused to move. Something was definitely broken, probably both. But Noah, he looked okay. Scraped, bruised, shaken, but alive. I had done it. I had protected him. The price? I couldn't tell yet. All I knew was that we were somewhere deep, somewhere hidden, and no one knew where we were, except the people who pushed us. I could hear them above. Muffled voices, footsteps near the cliff's edge. I couldn't make out the words until the wind shifted. "Do you see anything?" That was Lila's voice, calm, cold, emotionless. "No movement," Dad replied. "She might be gone. Should we check?" Mom's voice wavered. "Too risky," Lila snapped. "We leave now. No one comes this way. No one will find them." I froze. So did Noah. We looked at each other without speaking. I saw the understanding in his eyes. He knew we had to pretend. That's what shocked me most. My 6-year-old grasped what was happening better than most adults would. We lay perfectly still, not breathing too deeply, not flinching as bugs crawled across our arms or sticks dug into our skin. We became part of the forest floor, waiting, hiding in plain sight from the people who should have loved us. Then came the final blow. Lila's voice cut through the air like a jagged knife. "Once the insurance money comes in, Drew and I will finally be free. No more pretending. And we don't have to worry about the kid anymore. He wasn't part of the future anyway." I stared at the treetops. I couldn't speak. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even feel the pain in my body for a second. Only the betrayal. My husband and my sister. My own parents helping them. And for what? Money? Convenience? I was disposable to them. So was my son. All those late nights Drew didn't come home. The blank stares from Lila. The way my parents suddenly stopped calling unless it was about Noah. They weren't signs. I see that now. They were rehearsals. And I'd been too tired, too trusting, too blind to notice the script forming around me. Eventually, the voices above faded. I waited another 10 minutes, then whispered, "Noah, are you okay?" He nodded, eyes wide but steady. "You didn't let go." "I never will," I said, kissing his forehead. My phone was gone, probably smashed on impact. I looked around. Thick trees, no clear trail, uneven ground everywhere, and it was getting dark. "We need to get out of here," I said, wincing as I tried to sit up. My leg refused to cooperate. My arm hung useless. "Can you walk?" I asked him, dreading the answer. "I think so," he whispered. "It hurts, but I can move." I stared at him. Dirt on his cheeks, scratches on his knees, but something fierce in his eyes, stronger than any 6-year-old should have to be. "I'll help," he added quickly, seeing my struggle. "We'll go slow." Using a long branch and Noah's steady little hands, I managed to limp forward, inch by painful inch. My bones screamed with every step. The forest floor was uneven, full of roots and rocks. I slipped more than once. Each time, Noah pulled at my clothes, whispering, "We've got this." I didn't know where we were going. I just knew we had to move. Sitting still meant giving up, and I wasn't ready to die in a forest my family dumped me in. Night fell hard and fast. The cold seeped in through my jacket, gnawing at my spine. We paused beneath a large tree, the ground softer with moss. I let myself sit, but only for a moment. "Noah," I asked gently, "do you remember the way back to the trail?" He shook his head. "But I saw some pink flags on trees before. Maybe if we find one." That was enough. That one hopeful thread. I took a shaky breath. "We follow the flags," he nodded. I forced myself up again. Hours passed. I lost track of time. My watch had cracked in the fall, stuck at 6:48. I started seeing things that weren't there, glimmers of headlights, flickers of Drew's face. I ignored them. I had to. Noah stayed focused. He found the first flag near a rock with moss. "This way," he said, gently tugging me along. By what felt like a miracle, or maybe just Noah's determination, we stumbled out onto a familiar trail just as dawn broke. Lights spilled between the trees like mercy itself. We didn't have to wait long. A couple appeared older, with hiking sticks and wide-brimmed hats. The woman gasped when she saw us. "Oh my God, are you two okay?" I couldn't answer. I just nodded, tears spilling silently. The man handed me water while his wife wrapped her scarf around Noah. They called for help. They didn't ask too many questions, just held us steady until the ambulance came. The paramedics lifted us into the van, and as the siren wailed through the forest, I finally allowed myself to let go. Not of Noah, but of the fear, because we had survived. At the hospital, they ran scans and tests and asked 100 questions. The doctor looked at me kindly. "You're lucky to be alive. Your leg's fractured, arm too. You'll need surgery, but you'll heal." "And my son?" I asked, heart lodged in my throat. "A few bruises, nothing broken. He's a resilient little guy." I smiled through the tears. He saved me. Later that evening, a detective arrived, Detective Alan Cooper. Kind eyes, steady hands. "Can you tell me what happened on that hike?" I didn't hold back. I told him everything. My family, the push, the voices from the cliff, the affair, the insurance money. His face didn't change much, but I saw something flicker in his eyes, disgust. "We've tried contacting your husband," he said, scribbling notes. "No response yet, but we'll find him." Noah gave his own statement to a child counselor, told them what he'd heard, repeated the phone call he'd overheard between Lila and Drew. He said it like a fact, like weather. They wanted us gone. The counselor cried quietly behind her clipboard. It didn't take long. Lila was picked up, first found at Drew's apartment, where she'd already moved in. My parents were arrested at their house. Drew turned himself in 2 days later. Apparently, he'd started panicking once the police called his job. His work alibi didn't hold. They were all charged with conspiracy to commit murder, attempted homicide, and insurance fraud. And for the first time in days, I slept without fear. The first time I rolled into the courtroom in a wheelchair, I felt like I was watching someone else's life. I stared at the stained carpet, the polished wood, the clock ticking too loud. My fingers clenched around the blanket in my lap, not because I was cold, but because I needed something to anchor me. Across the room sat the people who'd once been my entire world. Drew in a wrinkled suit, not looking at me. Lila with her chin raised like she was still at some product launch. My parents stoic, emotionless, like they didn't just try to erase their own daughter and grandson from existence. The air in that room was thick, like grief trying to disguise itself as justice. The prosecutor laid out everything. The insurance policy with my forged signature, the phone records between Drew and Lila, the GPS trail showing my dad had driven us off the main road that day. It was all there, packaged and presented, like our lives were bullet points on a PowerPoint slide. I hated how clinical it felt. This wasn't some detached incident. This was my blood turning on me. This was my child being thrown off a cliff. When I was called to the stand, I wheeled myself up slowly. The judge nodded as if to say, "Take your time." I adjusted the mic, looked up, and spoke clearly. "My name is Eliza Monroe. I'm a nurse. I'm a mother. And I'm the woman they tried to kill." The room was silent. I took a breath. Drew and I were married for 8 years. We built a life, had a son, shared holidays with my parents, went to birthday parties with my sister. At least I thought we did. But somewhere along the line, I became invisible to them. And not just ignored, planned against. They didn't want a divorce. They didn't want space. They wanted me gone, permanently. I paused, let that land. On the hike, I was pushed from a cliff. My son was nearly thrown. And when they thought we were dead, they walked away. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't sad, but because I had nothing left to give them. No emotion, no softness, just truth, cold and unyielding. But we survived. We survived because my son is brave, and I refused to let them win. I looked directly at Drew then. "You didn't just break your vows. You tried to erase me to build a future with my sister." My eyes moved to Lila. "You betrayed blood for convenience and for money. Then, my parents, you gave birth to me. And still, you helped them destroy me. I don't understand how that's even possible." I could hear people in the gallery sniffling, someone stifling a gasp. The judge nodded again, gently this time. "Thank you, Miss Monroe." I wheeled myself back, without looking at the defense table again. When they called Noah to the stand, I almost stopped it. He was just a child, but he insisted. He stood there in his little blue button-up, hair combed neatly, holding his favorite dinosaur toy in one hand. The room softened the moment he opened his mouth. "Grandpa tried to show me the view." Mommy said it was too close. Then everything felt scary. The judge asked if he was afraid. "Yes," Noah whispered, "but I stayed quiet like Mommy told me." I listened. He glanced at me. "She kept me safe. Always." I broke then, quietly. Just one tear. Not because of the trauma, but because of the strength in his small voice. Over the next few days, the courtroom became a theater of unraveling lies. The defense tried to paint it as an accident. They said my parents didn't know what was happening. They said Drew never intended harm, that the insurance policy had been updated for safety reasons. But it was all paper thin. The texts between Lila and Drew were graphic and shameless. "When she's gone, it'll just be us. Noah's young, he won't even remember." There were voicemails too. One from my mom to Lila saying, "Just make sure Eliza doesn't get suspicious. We can't afford that." It was like watching my life played back through a nightmare reel. Lila finally cracked first. During her cross-examination, she fumbled her answers, contradicted herself. When asked why she didn't help search for us, she said, "I assumed they were already gone." The prosecutor tilted his head. "Gone? As in dead?" She hesitated. "I mean hurt." I panicked. But the courtroom didn't believe her. No one did. Drew sat stiffly, jaw clenched. My parents showed no remorse. They didn't apologize. Not once. Not even a glance of guilt. Just resentment. Like somehow I'd made all of this happen. The verdict came in on a rainy Thursday. I remember because the courtroom smelled like wet coats and tension. The jury didn't take long. Guilty on all counts: conspiracy, attempted murder, fraud. Drew and Lila were sentenced to 25 years. My parents each got 15. I didn't cheer. I didn't sigh with relief. I just sat there, numb, like someone who had stared into the core of her family and realized it was hollow. Outside, reporters tried to catch a statement. I ignored them. What could I say? That justice felt like ash in my mouth, that I would have given anything to not have been right about the people I loved. I held Noah's hand as we left. He looked up at me and asked, "Is it over now?" I knelt beside him, my cast still stiff, my muscles aching. The scary part is, the healing takes longer. In the months that followed, life moved on, but not quickly. Recovery came in fragments. My body healed faster than my heart. I walked with a cane at first, then slowly without. I kept working part-time at the clinic once I was cleared, but I changed shifts. I didn't want to run into patients who'd seen my face on the news. Small towns have long memories. Noah started therapy, and so did I. Some nights, we still woke up from nightmares. Other nights, we stayed up watching cartoons, both afraid to fall asleep. My friend Rachel from the hospital was my anchor. She brought groceries, babysat Noah when I had appointments, never asked for anything in return. One afternoon, sitting on her porch, she asked, "Have you thought about leaving town?" I had. More than once. Somewhere clean, somewhere quiet, somewhere that doesn't smell like what happened, she added. I nodded. Colorado. My cousin lives there. Says there's a clinic that needs help. Noah could start fresh, so I sold the house. Quietly. No announcements. Just packed what we needed and mailed the keys back to the realtor. It felt like shedding skin. We drove cross-country in an old SUV Rachel helped me buy. Noah picked the playlist. Halfway through Kansas, he turned to me and said, "This is the beginning, right?" I smiled. "Yes, baby. This is the beginning." Starting over wasn't something I planned. It was something I had no choice but to do. We arrived in Colorado on a cloudy morning, the kind where the mountains seemed to breathe in the mist, and the air smelled like rain. The town was small, quieter than Willowbrook, but not empty. People smiled at you when you passed. Not because they knew you, but because kindness still lived in them. We rented a room in a converted guest house, owned by a woman named Maeve, Rachel's cousin, who had the kind of warm energy that made you feel welcome just by walking through her front door. She had 2 dogs, an old cat, and a way of saying honey that wrapped around your shoulders like a blanket. Noah immediately bonded with her dogs, and she took to him like a favorite grandchild she didn't know she needed. I was grateful in ways I didn't have words for. I started working at a local health clinic 2 weeks later. It was a small operation, 2 doctors, 1 nurse practitioner, and a rotating shift of assistants. Nothing fancy but steady and honest. People came in with sprains, allergies, broken toes, and every now and then something heavier. It was different from the hospital chaos I'd been used to. Here, there was room to breathe. I liked it more than I expected. The routine became our foundation. Every morning, Noah and I walked to the elementary school 5 blocks away. He wore a red backpack that looked too big for him and carried a small dino keychain he'd clipped to the zipper. After drop-off, I'd grab coffee at the corner shop, say hello to Maeve's neighbor who ran the hardware store, and head to the clinic. It was simple, predictable. And after everything we'd been through, that predictability felt like peace. But healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant walking alongside the memories and not letting them pull you under. Some nights, I still woke up gasping, heart racing, as if I were falling again. Sometimes I'd hear Drew's voice in my dreams, or worse, Lila's laugh, that sharp little exhale that used to sound harmless until it became something else. Noah had his own quiet battles. One day, he came home from school and asked, "Mom, do people always hurt people they love?" I froze. I didn't know how to answer that without making the world sound cruel. So I knelt beside him and said, "Some people get lost, baby. They stop knowing what love really means. But not everyone is like that." He nodded slowly, like he wanted to believe it, even if he wasn't sure yet. It was moments like those that reminded me how much work healing truly takes, not just for me, but for him too. A few weeks after we moved in, the school principal stopped by the clinic. His name was David Clark. Late 30s, kind eyes, carried himself like someone who knew how to listen more than talk. He came in for a minor wrist sprain, but stayed to chat. We talked about Noah, how well he was adjusting, how he'd made friends already. "He's a smart kid," David said, flexing his wrapped wrist. "Polite, too. Says thank you even when you give him broccoli." I laughed, genuinely, and it startled me because I hadn't laughed like that in a while. It wasn't long before David started stopping by more often. Sometimes with questions about first aid kits, sometimes under the pretense of needing advice for a student. Eventually, he just admitted he liked talking to me. It felt strange, letting someone new into our world, even a little, but he never pushed. He always waited for me to be ready. One evening, after Noah had fallen asleep on the couch watching cartoons, David and I sat on the porch with mugs of tea. The sky was streaked with the last colors of sunset, and the breeze was just cold enough to make me pull my sweater tighter. "You don't have to tell me what happened," he said gently, "but I know you came here for a reason." I stared at my mug for a long second, then said, "We didn't leave, we escaped." I told him everything, not all the details, but enough. Enough for him to understand the weight I carried. He didn't flinch. He didn't ask for more than I was ready to give. "I'm glad you made it out," he said softly. "You and your son. You're stronger than most people I know." I didn't reply, but I looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something shift inside me. Not love, not yet, but the beginning of safety. Fall turned to winter, and snow began to blanket the town in silence. Maeve decorated the guest house with string lights and cinnamon-scented candles. Noah helped bake cookies and learned to shovel the walkway. Our life, slowly and quietly, began to feel like ours again. The news from back home trickled in now and then. Drew had appealed his sentence and been denied. Lila tried to claim she was coerced, also denied. My parents requested letters from me. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. They'd made their choices, and I had made mine. And mine was simple: protect Noah. Build something that didn't depend on blood ties, but on honesty, kindness, and trust. On Noah's 8th birthday, Maeve threw a little party in the backyard. David brought over cupcakes and a board game. A few kids from Noah's class showed up with handmade cards and mismatched wrapping paper. It was small, imperfect, and absolutely perfect. Noah looked around at one point and whispered, "I didn't think birthdays could be happy again." I hugged him tightly and said, "They can, because we're with people who actually care." That night, as I tucked him into bed, he said, "Mom, I think this place is magic." I smiled and kissed his forehead. "I think we made our own magic," I said. Later that evening, as I sat in the quiet living room, sipping hot cocoa and watching snow fall outside, I realized something that stopped me cold. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I felt like I was living. I had spent so long bracing for impact that I forgot what peace even sounded like. And here it was. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet joy. Gentle stability. And I wasn't going to let it slip away. Winter in Colorado was beautiful, but it came with its own kind of silence, the kind that made you listen to your thoughts whether you wanted to or not. Some nights, after Noah fell asleep and the house settled into its usual hum, I would sit on the porch, wrapped in a thick blanket, staring into the trees. There was something about the stillness of snow that made the past echo louder. I was doing everything right, I knew that. Noah was safe. We had a roof over our heads, new friends, a routine. But some wounds didn't care how far you moved or how well you dressed them. They had a way of finding you in the quiet. I had told myself the worst was behind us, but healing isn't a straight line. It's a loop, and just when you think you've stepped out of it, something grabs your ankle and pulls you back in. It happened one Tuesday. I was leaving work, keys in hand, coat zipped up to my chin, already thinking about dinner. As I stepped out the clinic door, I saw a letter tucked under my windshield wiper. No envelope, just folded paper, soaked around the edges from melting snow. I stood there, staring at it for longer than I should have. Part of me wanted to crumple it without reading, pretend I never saw it, but I didn't. I unfolded it right there, hands trembling before I even read the first line. It was from Drew. I didn't know how he got our address. Maybe someone from back home talked. Maybe he paid someone. Maybe it was dumb luck. Either way, it was short. Just 6 lines. He said he was sorry. That prison had given him time to think. That he missed Noah. That he wanted to fix things. No threats. No demands. Just enough to light every alarm in my chest. I folded the letter slowly, put it in my bag, and drove straight to the sheriff's office. The deputy on duty was a woman named Carla. She had gray roots and a no-nonsense attitude I appreciated. She read the note, made a copy, and filed a report. "It's not illegal to write to you," she said, "but it's enough that we can flag your address and monitor activity." I nodded, heart still pounding. "I don't want him anywhere near us." "Understood," she said. "If anything else shows up, you come straight here. No hesitation." That night, I didn't tell Noah. He was busy doing homework, feet kicking beneath the table as he practiced multiplication. I sat across from him, pretending to read a magazine, pretending my chest wasn't tight with dread. I couldn't let him know. Not again. He deserved peace. He deserved a home that didn't feel like a hiding place. But something shifted in me that week. It wasn't just fear, it was anger. A quiet, smoldering anger that reminded me I wasn't the same woman who had driven to the mountains with her family, thinking it was just a hike. I had survived their plan. I had rebuilt from ashes. I had held my son's hand through every storm since. And if Drew thought a few scrawled apologies could buy his way back, he hadn't learned a thing. I wasn't afraid of him anymore. But I wasn't naive either. I knew how people like him operated. When guilt didn't work, manipulation usually followed. I tightened security on every account we had. I changed passwords, moved savings into a separate bank under my name only. I contacted the clinic and let them know about the letter, in case someone came asking questions. Maeve insisted on adding cameras to the front porch. David offered to drive Noah to school for a few days, just until I felt calmer. I didn't ask him to, but he did it anyway, the same way he always stepped in without making a show of it. That was the thing about David. He never acted like he was saving anyone. He just showed up, steady as a heartbeat. A week passed without another letter, then 2, then 3. Life settled again, but I remained watchful. On the surface, everything looked the same. Noah went to school. I worked shifts at the clinic. We baked cookies on weekends and watched cartoons on rainy days, but underneath, I was scanning every face I didn't recognize, checking every sound at night, waiting for something to break the illusion. And eventually it did. The call came from Carla. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the edge underneath. "Eliza, we have a situation. Drew made a call from prison. It was monitored and recorded. He spoke with someone trying to confirm your location." My throat tightened. What does that mean? It means someone out there may be trying to help him contact you. Or worse, trying to arrange something on his behalf. We're escalating your case to state level for protection orders. My knees buckled a little, but I stayed standing. "Thank you for letting me know." "We'll do everything we can," she said firmly. "And you're doing the right thing." I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I just walked to my car, sat there for a while, and stared at the steering wheel. Then I drove to the school, picked up Noah early, and took him for ice cream. I watched him lick sprinkles off his fingers, cheeks puffed with laughter, and I made a decision right then. We weren't going to keep looking over our shoulders. We were going to live. Fully, loudly. We were going to take the life they tried to take from us and turn it into something they'd never understand joy. Not in spite of them, but in defiance of everything they stood for. I called a lawyer the next day. We filed paperwork to permanently seal our records and update our names. Nothing dramatic, just enough to make it harder for anyone to trace us through public means. I told Maeve, and she nodded without questions. "Names are just sounds," she said. "Who you are doesn't change." I believed her, and it felt like shedding skin I didn't need anymore. Noah became Nolan on paper. I kept Eliza, but dropped my married name for good. Small changes, maybe, but they felt powerful, like reclaiming pieces of ourselves that had been buried under everything we'd lost. It wasn't about hiding, it was about choosing who we wanted to be, now that we finally had the freedom to choose. Spring arrived slowly, as if it wasn't quite sure we were ready for it. Snow melted in careful patches, the ground softened, and crocuses began to sneak their way out of the earth like cautious promises. Life had a different texture, now not fragile, but deliberate. Everything I did, everything Nolan did, came from a place of choice. We were no longer reacting to the past. We were shaping our future. His name had officially changed, mine too, and seeing it on paperwork, school forms, even in library cards made it feel real in a way that words alone couldn't. We had started over, not by running, but by reclaiming. And that difference mattered. One afternoon, as we walked home from the farmer's market with a bag of fresh bread and strawberries, Nolan looked up at me and asked something that caught me off guard. "Mom, do I have to hate them?" I paused, adjusting the bag on my shoulder. "You don't have to feel anything you don't want to," I said carefully. "But you never have to love someone just because they're family." He nodded slowly, digesting it the way he did with all big thoughts. "I think I just don't want to remember them." "That's okay," I told him. "Forgetting isn't weakness. It's making space for better things." That night, he drew a picture of our house with Maeve's dogs in the yard, me in the garden, and himself holding a kite with David standing beside him. He wrote "my family" at the top in shaky but proud handwriting. I pinned it on the fridge without saying a word, but something swelled in my chest, too big to name. David had become a part of our lives gradually, without force. He never tried to replace anyone. He just made room for himself quietly, with steady hands and honest questions. He helped Nolan with math when I worked late, brought soup when I had the flu, fixed a broken cabinet without being asked. He never used our past against us. He didn't treat us like survivors, just people worth showing up for. One evening, after a long walk through town, he took my hand gently and said, "You don't have to answer now, but when you're ready, I'd like us to be something more." I didn't pull away. I didn't freeze. I just squeezed his hand and said, "When I'm ready, I'll tell you." Healing had made me cautious, but it hadn't made me closed. I had learned that boundaries weren't walls. They were doors you chose to open when it felt safe. And with David, I wasn't afraid of what was behind the door. I just needed to be sure I was walking through it with both feet. Months passed, and life filled itself in with the small, important things: Nolan winning a spelling bee, me getting offered a full-time position at the clinic, Sunday dinners on the porch, laughter echoing without apology. I began to understand that we hadn't just escaped something dark, we had built something better in its place. Not perfect, but honest and strong. Then, one morning, I received a letter I hadn't expected. Not from Drew, not from Lila, but from my father. It came from the prison address, in his handwriting, and I almost threw it out, but curiosity peeled it open before fear could stop me. It wasn't long. He said he'd been reading books on forgiveness, that he'd made mistakes, that he never stopped loving me, even if he hadn't shown it. He didn't ask for anything. Not contact, not visits. Just wrote, "I hope someday you'll understand why I couldn't stop what happened." I read it twice, then folded it and placed it in the back of a drawer. Not because it moved me, but because it didn't. The part of me that once would have hungered for closure now understood that not all wounds are meant to be spoken to. Some are simply buried, not in anger, but in peace. I told no one about the letter. It didn't belong in our new life. As Nolan's 9th birthday approached, we decided to do something we hadn't done since moving host a celebration. A real one. Maeve offered her backyard. David grilled burgers. Nolan invited his classmates. And for the first time in years, I baked a cake without feeling like the past was sitting on my shoulder. The kids played tag until their legs gave out. Nolan opened his presents with wide eyes and whispered thank you to every person, even the ones who brought socks. At the end of the night, he crawled onto my lap, tired and full of frosting, and whispered, "This is the happiest I've ever been." I didn't answer. I just held him and let the truth of that moment settle around us like the stars above. That same night, after Nolan went to sleep, David and I sat on the porch, feet bare, mugs warm between our hands. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It felt like space being held. I turned to him, heart calm for once, and said, "I'm ready." He didn't smile right away. He just nodded, like he'd known it would come eventually, and placed his hand over mine. We didn't make grand plans. We didn't talk about marriage or what came next. We just sat there, two people who had found something real in the ruins of what could have destroyed us. And that was enough. A year later, Nolan and I stood on a hill just outside town, watching as the wind tugged at the grass and the clouds drifted lazily across the sky. It had been a full year since we'd changed our names. Since we'd said goodbye to what tried to break us, I looked down at him, taller now, eyes still bright, and asked, "What do you want to do next?" He looked up thoughtfully, then said, "Whatever we want. We can go anywhere now, right?" I smiled. "That's right. We can go anywhere." And that was the final lesson. Family is not what you're born into. It's not who shares your blood or your name. Family is who shows up when everything else falls apart. It's who sits beside you on the porch when you're quiet. It's who celebrates your small joys and protects your peace without being asked. It's the people who don't ask you to forget what happened, but help you live with it without shame. I had learned it the hard way, but I had learned it well. Nolan and I had been thrown from a cliff, once physically, emotionally, almost completely, but we had climbed back, hand in hand, and found something better on the other side. So when I tell people my story now, I don't start with the betrayal. I start with the boy who held my hand when I couldn't walk. I start with the porch where healing began. I start with the truth that you can lose everything and still end up with more than you imagined. Because sometimes the fall doesn't break you. It breaks you open. And from there, if you choose carefully, you can grow something stronger than survival. You can build love. You can build peace. And that, to me, is the best kind of revenge. Story 2. In a peaceful residential area in the San Francisco suburbs stood a modest one-story home. A warm rectangle was created on the floor of the living room by the afternoon sun shining through the windows. Jennifer Collins assisted her son Ryan with his schoolwork in light of this. The weariness of another day. "Is this acceptable, Mom?" Ryan, who is 8 years old, presented her his arithmetic worksheet. There was always a combination of friendliness and nervousness in his big brown eyes. "Excellent work. Jennifer stroked her son's silky hair and grinned. The social studies worksheet is all we have left for tomorrow. Jennifer was a fifth-grade teacher at the neighborhood elementary school. She had been working frantically as a single mother since her divorce 5 years prior, raising Ryan, who had a delicate and sensitive disposition. David, her ex-husband, only saw Ryan 2 or 3 times a year now that he had a new family in Los Angeles. Jennifer was a little startled when the phone rang and she looked up. Despite the unknown number, she replied with a sense of foresight. From the other end of the call came the joyful voice of Jenny, her sister Rebecca. Unbelievably, something has occurred. Rebecca. What is it? The unexpected call from her sister left Jennifer speechless. It had been months since she had spoken to Rebecca. I'm engaged. Rebecca's voice was bursting with uncontrollable enthusiasm. Are you familiar with Marcus Hamilton? Hamilton Investments heir? Jennifer couldn't say anything. Well was the Hamilton family. Do you know anyone who posts Reddit tales on YouTube and makes over $10,000 a month? Just a laptop, no voice, no face. If you're interested in the wealthy clan on the West Coast, I've included a link below. 3 years prior, she recalled Rebecca's shift to a marketing firm. They were a significant customer, she had claimed. Rebecca, congrats, Jennifer whispered softly. It surprises me. You're shocked, of course. The Ocean View Resort in Santa Barbara will host our lavish wedding next month. The invites have already been sent out. Yours ought to arrive tomorrow. Rebecca didn't pause to catch her breath. 300 visitors. A well-known designer's bridal gown, a cake with 6 layers. As she heard all of this, Jennifer couldn't help but notice how far apart her sister's world was from her own little one. Parents are already overjoyed. Mom in particular is sobbing uncontrollably as she says, "My darling daughter is marrying into such a wonderful family." Jennifer inhaled deeply and closed her eyes. Their mother in particular had always favored Rebecca above all others. Jennifer's quiet demeanor contrasts with Diana's from her youth. No one told Rebecca, "Why are you unable to be as introverted as Jenny?" How often, instead, had Jennifer heard Jenny, "Why aren't you as intelligent and outgoing as Rebecca? How is Ryan, by the way?" Rebecca's tone softened abruptly. According to Marcus's mother, she is eager to meet the entire family, particularly her adorable nephew. Jennifer turned to face Ryan. He appeared to be reading a book and listening to his mother's phone conversation. "Is it possible for us to attend the wedding? Ryan is doing good. You'll come, of course." Rebecca's tone became quite abrasive. "We are related. Jenny, regardless." Jennifer hung up the phone and collapsed into the couch. She had a complex connection with Rebecca. In private, Rebecca had always made fun of Jennifer's life. Rebecca had described her marriage to David as a decent option for someone like you, and she couldn't forget how she had termed her decision to finish college and become a teacher a waste of ability. She seemed to be saying, "As I expected, Mom was that aren't following the divorce." Rising from his book, Ryan looked up. "Rebecca is getting married too. Tomorrow, the invitation will arrive." Ryan's expression lightened. "A wedding? Can we leave?" Observing his unadulterated happiness. Jennifer experienced heartbreak. While swooning over Rebecca, Ryan's parents showed little interest in Jennifer and Ryan, and he hardly got the chance to spend time with his father's family. "I'll give it some thought," Jennifer said evasively. The promised opulent invitation showed on the following day. An invitation to a 3-day, 2-night wedding at the Santa Barbara Resort was written in gold foil script. The phone rang once more as Jennifer was reading it. It came from Jennifer, her mother, this time. "Have you gotten the invitation?" There was the typical undertone of stress in Diana Wilson's voice. "I just checked it, yes. Isn't it amazing? I'm eager to witness Rebecca's genuine happiness." There was pride in her mother's voice. "You're bringing Ryan to write, of course." Jennifer paused. "Mom, I'm not sure. Their educational institution. There is always school." Diana's tone abruptly became harsh. "It's a significant family day. Bring your son. The entire family ought to be present." Jennifer attempted to reply, but her mom went on. "Additionally, there is an opportunity to positively impact Marcus's family. Family is important to them. Jennifer, you know that your decisions impact the family's reputation as a whole. Do you not?" Jennifer hung up and sat with her head in her hands at the kitchen table. Is she supposed to attend the wedding? For the sake of Ryan, should she go? Or would it only bring back memories of her injuries? For Ryan's sake, Jennifer made the decision to go after a week of internal turmoil. More than anything, she convinced herself that maybe it was time to move past her past disputes now that she was an adult. Jennifer and Ryan arrived to the Ocean View Resort in Santa Barbara the day before the wedding, and they stood in front of the opulent hotel with a view of the ocean. Ryan had a gleam in his eyes. "This site is incredible, Mom." Diana and Rebecca were waiting in the foyer. Diana gleamed with a pricey necklace adorned with jewels, while Rebecca wore the newest designer gown. Ryan Jenny. Rebecca smiled brightly as she welcomed them. She gave Jennifer a cheek kiss and gave Ryan a hug. "I'm so happy you arrived." Diana also gave her grandson a hug and referred to him as her darling grandson. But there was something intentional about that warmth, Jennifer thought. Despite her discomfort, she kept a fake grin on her face. On the morning of the wedding, she persuaded herself, let's keep the peace this time for Ryan's sake too. Jennifer was standing by the window, looking out at the Santa Barbara Sea. At the horizon, the blue water and azure sky blended together seemed interminable. With a sigh, she turned to face Ryan as he lay in bed. Her son was excitedly waking up early and was watching TV while grinning at his tuxedo. "Let's prepare, Ryan," she called to him softly. Ryan was sincerely attempting to knot his necktie in front of the mirror as he put on the navy blue suit that his mother had selected. As she fixed his tie, Jennifer knelt before her son and carefully guided his little hands. "What will the day be like?" There was real interest in Ryan's voice. Jennifer smiled and replied, "It will be a very lovely day," but there was a tightness in her voice that she was unaware of. The location was a large glass church with a view of the azure ocean. The altar shone in the gentle morning light, adorned with purple lavender and white flowers. One by one, the guests came, and Jennifer made her way to her seat. Jennifer Collins was blending in with individuals wearing nice clothes she had never seen before. At the reception, she called out her name. "Oh, you're the sister of the bride. The front row is where you are seated." The receptionist had a unique look on her face. Family seats on the front row. Jennifer caught her breath, although this was to be anticipated given that she had spent years away from the family. It came as a surprise. She walked toward the assigned seats while holding Ryan's hand. Her parents were already seated, Diana in an opulent gown and her father, Jonathan, who sat with a dignity that belied his advanced age. Jennifer called quietly, "Dad?" Jonathan looked around and smiled warmly, though a little shocked. "Jenny, you arrived." "Dad, of course." Diana said, "My dear grandson," as she got to her feet and embraced Ryan. Then she formally hugged Jennifer. She remarked, "That dress is lovely," yet her eyes analyzed her daughter's attire in a judgmental manner. The wedding started as soon as the pipe organ's notes filled the church. The flower girl, who was distributing petals, came in behind the bridesmaids, who had lined up. Then, with everyone on their feet, Rebecca stepped in, holding on to her father's arm. She was really gorgeous. Her pristine white gown, embellished with lace and gems, shone in the sunlight. Jennifer had not seen such a look of pure joy on Rebecca's face in years. "Beautiful," Ryan said quietly. "Yes, she is gorgeous," Jennifer said, stroking her son's head. She had put aside her complex sentiments for her sister for the moment, and felt a sincere sense of congratulations. The event went beautifully and respectfully. Marcus Hamilton was tall and exuded confidence. But as they exchanged vows, there was kindness in his eyes. His voice quivered as he glanced at Rebecca. "I swear to always love and respect you." Jennifer observed the ritual in silence. She secretly recalled having formerly subscribed to the same beliefs. At the time, her marriage to David had likewise been a loving union. The service was followed by a reception in the lawn. Champagne was poured into glasses, and tables were decorated with crystal centerpieces and white flowers. Ryan and Jennifer were shown to the table of relatives. There were Hamilton family members as well as uncles and aunts from her father's side. "Jennifer Collins is this person." Diana, Rebecca's sister, introduced herself. "And here is Ryan, her son." Marcus's mother, Eleanor, was a stately woman, and the entire Hamilton family was lovely. She smiled warmly as she greeted Ryan and Jennifer. "Rebecca has told me about you. You work as a teacher. That's a fantastic career." Jennifer said, "A bit uneasy, thank you." "Who is this handsome young man?" Eleanor gave Ryan a grin. "My name is Ryan." He gave a rather bashful response. "I'm 8 years old." 8. That age is fantastic. Do you have any hobbies? Eleanor said with genuine curiosity. I enjoy dinosaurs and I'm learning to play the piano. How lovely, my goodness. At home, we have a grand piano. Do you want to perform for us sometime? For the first time, Ryan's face lit up with a genuine smile. Jennifer looked at Eleanor appreciatively. She had expected a frigid, upper-class family, but this was not it. But the nice environment was short-lived. Marcus and Rebecca started going around to the tables and came up to Jennifer's table. That was not lost on her. For a second, Rebecca's face stiffened. Though her eyes were frigid, Jenny, Ryan, and Rebecca yelled out joyfully. Are you having fun? Rebecca, it's a beautiful wedding, Jennifer replied earnestly. Marcus replied politely as he turned to face Ryan. You're Ryan then. It's good to meet you. Rebecca has told me about you, she says. You're a bright youngster. For a moment, Ryan looked pleased yet a bit ashamed. At the reception, the discussion went smoothly. But when dessert was being served, Rebecca unexpectedly slid down next Jennifer and said in a whisper, Hey Jenny, would you like Ryan to perform for you? Jennifer gave her sister a startled glance, but he's still a kid. What ought he to do? Anything will work. Dancing and singing. Rebecca had a calculating look in her eyes. I wish to showcase our family's abilities to Marcus's family. Jennifer was on the verge of declining. She was nervous about her kid, performing in front of strangers on stage. Ryan was a delicate youngster. Rebecca Ryan struggles with public speaking. Diana came over. What are you discussing? I was considering asking Ryan to perform, Rebecca said. What a brilliant concept. Diana agreed right away. In a quiet voice, she said as she turned to face Jennifer, Be helpful on this unique day. Unexpectedly, Jennifer's demeanor changed to one of confusion as she stared at Ryan. He gave a little nod. Ryan responded softly, I want to try, because his sincere emotion moved Rebecca. Jennifer was powerless to protest. Okay? It was the height of the welcome. The space was filled with the sound of laughter and clinking champagne glasses, as well as the sounds of the live jazz band. From a distance, Jennifer observed Ryan sitting on a chair and twitching his fingers uncomfortably. Rebecca was ready to approach him after sensing his nervousness when she grabbed a microphone and stood in the middle of the hallway. I want to thank everyone for this amazing experience. The hall rang with Rebecca's voice. Her attractiveness was enhanced while she was wearing her bridal gown, which was all white. I wished to spend my special day with my whole family today. Rebecca turned back to the visitors after glancing at Marcus and smiling lovingly at him. She laughed and lifted the microphone, saying, Now we have a special performance. Her joy was evident in her voice. Ryan, the son of my sister, will now perform in an exciting manner. Ryan became the center of attention in the venue. He sat still. Jennifer made an effort to go quickly to her kid, but navigating the mob took some time. Ryan, hurry up. Everybody is waiting. Rebecca's eyes shone coldly despite her lovely speech. With shaky legs, Ryan rose slowly and made his way to the little stage. As she watched his little back, Jennifer's chest constricted under the stares of everyone in the room. Ryan paused in front of the microphone, seemingly unsure of what to do, until he eventually walked up on stage. His little lips were quivering, and his eyes were wide with fear. Diana blocked Jennifer's way when she eventually emerged from the throng and approached the platform. It's okay. Diana smiled and said, I'll assist. Those remarks gave Jennifer a brief sense of comfort, but then she froze in fear. Diana stepped up on stage and stood behind Ryan, who was unaware of what was going on. After taking matches out of her handbag, Observe, ladies and gentlemen. Diana touched Ryan's shoulder and spoke. There will be a special performance by my lovely grandson. Amazingly, Diana then struck and ignited a match. As the little flame got closer to Ryan's silky hair, Jennifer looked in icy fear. This is the show for today. Have fun. Diana was about to touch Ryan's hair with the match flame when Rebecca yelled over the microphone. The venue erupted in laughter after a brief period of stillness. People were yelling, "How hilarious! What a wonderful performance!" However, those voices soon stopped. Ryan's scream reverberated throughout the arena as a little flame sprang from his hair. "It is painful. The temperature is high. Mom." Ryan's voice was filled with sheer fear. His tiny hands groped for his head as tears welled up in his eyes, but he appeared hesitant to touch the flame. After waking up, Jennifer hurried to the stage. In an attempt to put out the fire, she hastily removed her jacket and covered Ryan's head. "What are you doing?" Her voice shook with fear and rage. "Are you crazy?" Rebecca smiled in response and shrugged. "It's not harmful, it's a particular effect. Just a small joke, you're going overboard." Jenny. A joke. Jennifer gazed incredulously at her sister. "It's absurd to set my son's hair on fire. This flame is unique. It doesn't hurt and goes out fast." Calmly, Diana replied. "You're all right, Ryan? Be a boy of strength." Ryan, however, was still sobbing and shaking. There was a slight charred scent in the air, and a portion of his hair was singed. Jennifer cradled her kid. "Now everything is okay, Ryan. Mama's here," she muttered. "I will not allow anyone to harm you." Just then, Marcus stepped up the stairs, and soft footsteps came toward the stage. His face was a combination of bewilderment and rage. "What's going on?" He glanced at Rebecca and asked. "Why are you making a youngster feel afraid?" "Marcus, it's just for fun." Rebecca made an effort to keep her grin, but her face was starting to reveal signs of nervousness. "It resembles a custom in the family." "Custom?" "Marcus." There was a menacing tone to his low voice. "It's customary to frighten a youngster and burn his hair." He walked gently toward Ryan and Jennifer, knelt down, and met the boy's eyes. "Are you all right?" Ryan, still shaking, nodded. Marcus checked his charred hair and gave his head a gentle pat. Jennifer saw his face slowly shift from bewilderment to comprehension to rage. "This is neither a tradition, nor is it a joke." Marcus got to his feet and said softly, "It's simply bullying." There was silence in the room. Anxiety and stress were in the air, and the laughing had entirely vanished. Eleanor Hamilton walked up to the stage and gave Ryan a troubled look. She whispered to Jennifer, "Let's take this kid to the infirmary. We must determine whether his scalp is inflamed." As she prepared to exit the stage with her son, Jennifer nodded and stood up, holding Ryan almost in her arms. Rebecca took hold of her arm. "Jenny, don't overstate things," she muttered. "Keep my wedding intact." For the first time in her life, Jennifer felt nothing but anger as she looked at her sister. "Rebecca, you damaged it yourself." She walked off the stage with Ryan in tow. She was joined by Eleanor and Marcus, and the three of them made their way to the hospital. She could hear Diana and Rebecca fighting in low tones behind them. But there was no longer any heart in Jennifer. Her son was the whole focus of her thoughts, shivering in her embrace. Ryan's head was inspected carefully by a nurse in the infirmary. Thankfully, there were no severe burns, although his scalp was somewhat red and a little of his hair was singed. Jennifer gripped her son's little hand as she sat next to him. "Don't worry, Ryan," she said. "You'll feel better soon." Eleanor gave Ryan a glass of water that she had brought. "Have a little drink. You'll feel better." Marcus was standing by the window, looking out at the ocean. Anger and determination were visible on his back. "I have to return, Marcus," he whispered quietly as he abruptly turned back. Eleanor's gaze shifted to her son. "Mom, don't worry." He gave a little smile. "I will just fulfill my obligations." Marcus looked at Ryan and Jennifer. "Here you both rest. I will return shortly." Eleanor took a seat next Jennifer when he left the room. She responded softly, "My son is a person who does the right thing. We never support such behavior." Jennifer gave a nod. Anxiety for the future and the pain she had borne for years overwhelmed her heart. In the meantime, the party was attempting to restart at the reception location following the little uncertainty. Rebecca was grinning as she explained to the attendees that it was only a small show. Diana was acting in a similar manner, stating that Ryan would return shortly. "Do not be concerned." During this time, Marcus went back to the location. He stepped onto the stage and picked up the microphone. All eyes were on him as the venue went quiet. "Please give me a moment, everyone." He spoke in a strong, deep voice. "What transpired in front of my eyes is beyond my comprehension. Is this part of a custom I'm unaware of?" Marcus, his father William, gently took Rebecca's arm and silently shook his head as she rushed for the stage. "I witnessed a youngster crying and experiencing terror today," Marcus went on, "and I saw that there was a significant silence across the auditorium as individuals who referred to this entertainment as an act laughed." Marcus glanced at Rebecca carefully. There was anguish in his eyes. "I thought I loved you, Rebecca, but today I noticed a different side of you than the one I knew." After blushing, Rebecca hurried to the stage. That was a joke, Marcus. Don't worry about it too much. It is serious business to put a child in danger and turn them into a laughing stock. Marcus responded coolly. It isn't consistent with the ideals of my family, Diana added, her voice. You don't understand, Marcus. Ryan was unharmed. It was a special effect. But Marcus, together with his mother Eleanor and father William, got up and took the stage. Their facial expressions were stern and determined. William announced to the venue that the wedding would be momentarily halted. The Hamilton family must think carefully about what happened today. Rebecca's face drained of blood. What do you say? I'm getting married today. Silently, Marcus took her hand and examined the engagement ring. I loved you, but love is compassion and respect. That was not at all what I witnessed today. After releasing Rebecca's hand, he walked off the stage. Then he made his way over to where Ryan and Jennifer had come from the infirmary. Ryan appeared a little more composed, though he was still shaking. Ryan. Marcus crouched down and met the boy's eyes. I sincerely apologize. I want to express my heartfelt regret for causing you pain and fear. Ryan nodded in silence. Marcus turned to Jennifer and put a kind touch on his shoulder. I sincerely apologize to you and your son, Jennifer, for the incident that occurred during my wedding. You're not to blame. Jennifer gave a modest response. There's nothing to apologize for. Marcus inhaled deeply before getting to his feet. After that, he went back to the stage and picked up the microphone. There was an amazing hush throughout the venue. This is where I declare everyone. Although his voice was shaking, his will remained unflinching. I, Marcus Hamilton, now dissolve my union with Rebecca Wilson. There was a whisper from the location. Diana's face flushed scarlet with humiliation and rage, while Rebecca stood still. Marcus went on to say that a real family respects, loves, and guards one another. I didn't see today that I couldn't relate to a family that upholds these ideals. William and Eleanor supported their son's choice by standing next to him. People started to slowly get up from their seats as a thick stillness descended on the stadium. After exchanging perplexed looks, many of the visitors quietly departed. Holding Ryan close, Jennifer prepared to silently depart the venue. Marcus halted her at that very time. Hold on, Jennifer. Where will you return to the hotel to pack our belongings? She replied. Enough is enough. Marcus's expression was solemn. To allow Ryan to relax, kindly stay till tomorrow. Additionally, if there is anything we can do, just let us know. Despite her confusion, Jennifer nodded when she saw her son's weary countenance. Thank you. The reception space soon became empty after they left. The opulent cake, flowers, and decorations all lost their significance, and the previous grandeur vanished. Standing on the stage, Rebecca's face was broken as she looked around. Her own actions caused her day, which was intended to be wonderful, to go apart. What have you done, Marcus? Diana said angrily as she stepped next to her daughter. However, the arena was deserted, and there was nobody in front of them. And there were still broken dreams. It was 3 weeks later. Jennifer and Ryan were attempting to go back to their regular schedules in San Francisco. Work, school, and quiet evenings. But they carried that day's memories with them forever. Ryan's mood was slowly improving, but he still experienced nightmares from time to time. Although the burned area of his hair had been trimmed short and was no longer visible, the scars on his heart were more difficult to heal. Thankfully, her kid didn't tell anybody about it, despite Jennifer's fears that he might be bullied at school. Mom, I passed the math test today with a perfect score. When Ryan got home from school, he exclaimed with pride, That's fantastic. Jennifer gave her kid a hug and smiled. Shall we prepare a spectacular celebration? The phone rang when they were in the kitchen mixing cookie dough. Although the number was unknown, Jennifer sensed something. Speaking is Jennifer Collins. This is Marcus Hamilton. Jennifer. From the phone came a soft voice. Is now a good moment? After a little pause, Jennifer said, Yes, that's fine. Tell me how Ryan is doing first, please. Marcus. There was genuine worry in his words. Little by little, he is improving. He's getting his hair back. I'm happy. Marcus let out a sigh of relief. I want to speak with you face to face, Jennifer, if you're okay with it. This weekend, I would want to travel to San Francisco. Despite her amazement, Jennifer was unable to think of a reason to decline. Okay. Marcus spent the weekend at Jennifer's house. He lacked the wedding's formality and was dressed casually in pants and a shirt. He had given Ryan a kid's electronic piano set as a gift. "I've heard you're taking piano lessons," Marcus remarked to Ryan with a smile. Initially timid and apprehensive, Ryan eventually warmed up and started playing easy songs on the new piano with Marcus's kind support. Marcus and Jennifer walked outside to the porch and drank coffee and chatted. "My relationship with Rebecca is ended," Marcus muttered. "Since that day, I've been in touch with her sometimes, but there's no turning back." Jennifer gave a nod. Calls from her parents' house had been ignored by her herself. Marcus really paused for a moment. "I investigated your family. I was informed that bullying had occurred in the past. I was informed by several of Rebecca's pals." Indeed. Jennifer's childlike eyes fell. "For my parents, especially my mother, I was never enough." "I apologize," Marcus responded earnestly. "I wanted to say I was sorry to Ryan, and to assist you in any manner that I can." Marcus then came to see them from time to time. Despite being a busy businessman, he found time during the holidays to watch movies with Ryan or teach him the piano. Oddly, he and Jennifer had grown to trust each other and understand each other naturally. At the same time, it became evident what had occurred to Diana and Rebecca. Someone had partially shared a video of the wedding on social media, and it had gained traction despite its narrow scope. Those who witnessed it all reacted with disgust and rage. Rebecca's social standing fell along with her precarious job at Marcus's family firm. Diana was also losing the reputation she had earned over the years, the outcome of their actions. Jennifer was relieved that justice had been served, but she also quietly acknowledged that she hadn't yearned for retribution. Ryan's school hosted a winter recital 6 months later. He was supposed to play a tune on the piano. In the waiting area, Ryan stated nervously, "I'm nervous. It's all right. Simply follow your practice." Marcus encouraged heartily. He had specifically taken today off from work. Jennifer touched the shoulder of her son. "You're capable. We're always here to help." The audience included Jennifer and Marcus, as well as Eleanor and William Marcus, whose parents had always loved Ryan and appreciated his gift. On occasion, they came to Jennifer's house and pretended to be actual grandparents. Ryan sat at the piano after going up on stage. He inhaled deeply, and as soon as his fingers hit the keys, he gave his relatives in the audience a little smile. A lovely tune reverberated across the corridor. Loud applause erupted as the concert came to a close. There was excitement and a sense of accomplishment on Ryan's face. He rushed to Jennifer after exiting the stage and gave her a hug. "Ryan, you are amazing." Marcus praised him and gave him a hug as well. "It was a really fantastic performance. My grandson has such talent," Eleanor said, William wiping away her tears. Jennifer gave her a startled look at those remarks. Grinning, Eleanor grasped her hand. "Our family already includes you, even in the absence of biological relations." When she got home that evening after Ryan had fallen asleep, Jennifer sat on the sofa in the living room and looked up at the starry sky outside the window. Marcus held her hand in silence as he sat next to her. Blood ties are not what define a family. It has to do with sharing love and respect. Marcus spoke softly. "That was the day I found out." Squeezing his hand back, Jennifer grinned. Emotions she had long forgotten were resurfacing in her heart. Love, joy, and hope. It was a fresh start.